Kayla Johnson, a Black millennial, recently traveled to Zambia, Africa, to experience the motherland, the Zambian people, and their rich culture and food. Joining us is NNV contributor Nina Shabazz to share her interview. Greetings,
Good
sis.
evening. How are you?
I'm doing great, doing great.
Eid Mubarak.
Eid Kareem.
So I thought this would be a good segment since we're gearing up for vacation. I thought it would be a really nice segue into talk about some of the vacation plans that some of our people, millennials, and that sort of thing are having. And so I thought it would be a really good opportunity to send my niece, Kayla Johnson, to live abroad. And so, because it's something I think that, we should all experience, even if it's, 2 or 3 months, we should take that experience to live abroad. And so,
Mhm.
so some of the things that I was asking her, having gone abroad for her first time, what
Mhm.
was her first impression of Africa, mainly Zambia, when she arrived? And this is her thoughts here.
Okay.
My name is Kayla Johnson, and this is my first time staying abroad and visiting Africa. And my first impressions upon arrival were, as soon as I exited the airport, I could tell that nature was a continuous feature of most established locations, and that there is a lot of respect for nature. And the ride from the airport showed us how expansive Zambia is in Africa as a whole. There's just so much untouched land still, and how much is still being developed into modern standards, like highways and freeways and stuff like that. But overall, so beautiful. I love being surrounded by nature and breathing fresh air, so I just felt really comforted by the fact that there weren't tall buildings or factories pumping out, emissions. So it was nice to be able to just step out and feel like just surrounded by nature, which I love and which I wanted.
That's amazing. I definitely have to say, her what's the word I'm looking for? Her emphasis on the respect for nature that Zambia has is very important because a lot of times we don't take in consideration of the fact that how much of a positive effect that nature can have on us as as an individual human being. And because I know even whenever I went to Seattle one time, just with all the trees, like the air there is different, way different than it
Hmm.
is from Texas. It's much more crisp, it's much more clean. And even when I go back home to Bermuda, sometimes like just the sun feels different. Just being around all the trees, hearing the natural animals that are there, making their sounds, being able to see trees with fruit producing trees on just a random corner that you could just grab a fresh fruit off the tree and really taste the freshness of a fruit besides it being imported and you getting it from the store. So I definitely can I can definitely, feel her on that feeling with being surrounded by that nature and just really becoming at peace with herself.
Right. I mean, it's funny that you should mention fruit and that sort of thing because, I was asking her what are some of the foods that she's a big foodie like I am.
Mm,
And so I was asking her, like, how are you finding the foods? What kind of cuisine, are you able to get over there,
mm,
besides some of the local cuisine? And so this is what she said.
mm,
So the food and cuisine I've tried so far, um, so far I've realized that Zambia has very simple meals, inspired by many different cultures. So it kind of depends on your preference and what are the places you're going to. There's fresh produce all over the place. There are people selling tomatoes and avocado down almost every road. So if you're vegan or vegetarian, there and enjoy cooking, there's a lot of inexpensive produce available all around. Um, Another thing I noticed is that all of the foods and drinks are not high in sodium and sugar like Americans are used to. So most of the foods are pretty mild, and until you ask for like peri peri, pepper, spice, hot sauce, whatever you call it. But that's if you like your food spicy. So once you find your preference, the food's good, and you know what to ask for and how to jazz it up the way you like. But pretty simple meals for the most part. One of the main staples of Zambian food is called nchima, and it's kind of similar to fufu, but not the texture. It's more like a thick, like grits, thicker, and you can like pick up the rest of your meal with it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Ryan?
Trial one. This is lumanda, traditional dish.
Okay.
For Zambians.
How is it? It's good?
It's actually good. It tastes kind of like spinach with literally ground nuts. Like they got nuts from the ground.
What kind of nuts? Peanuts?
Like peanuts, yeah.
Ooh, cashew.
It's not warm though.
It's not warm.
Yeah, it tastes like room temperature.
Let me test.
Wow, that sounds just mighty interesting as far as the food goes. Because one thing I've noticed, and she kind of confirmed this, was the similarity between foods all around the world and how they're very similar as far as having a bread, a dish that contains a meat and a vegetable or like a grain, and then also some type of like not salad, but like like a soup. Like it's something. Sometimes it's like always in a stew type of form, like a spice. That's the word I'm looking for. A very distinct spice, and then how all across the world there's a similar way that we eat. That's vastly different from the way that America structures their food, where we get hamburgers and pizza and French fries over here. And so, because in the same, just going back to Bermuda, we eat a lot of rice, curries, breads, and things of that nature, and spices as well, as what she was mentioning about adding the hot chili peppers to the food as well.
Yeah, right. No, definitely. And I think other cultures have a little bit more balance in their palate. Americans are very carb laden. You mentioned pizza, hamburgers, all of that's bread and carbs. Hamburger, French fries, all of those are heavy carb meals. The other thing too that she mentioned was what to expect for the accommodations. And so, I told her, go ahead and give us a tour of what people can expect in terms of accommodations. I mean, there are hotels, there are Airbnbs, but this is what she showed us in terms of the accommodations.
Fantastic.
So, what are my accommodations like, and what others can expect? Well, that kind of depends. I've been staying on a compound with next level development. For those who don't know what a compound is, it's basically just a large piece of land with 2 or more houses on it within walls. So that's what we're at right now. So far, I've enjoyed this experience. It's kind of nice to like be able to select or know your neighbors and be able to like share your day or share something you've made. For example, my partner is really good at making fresh juice, so he made carrot juice, and we were able to share it with some of the others within the compound. And it's a nice feeling to be a part of a little community. Definitely something I would want in my future, and not be strangers with my neighbors, or have animosity because of the strangeness.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful to see that they still work together as a community, and that there's neighborly love going on out there in Zambia. Because I know here it's not the same as it used to be. Because back then, you would have you could go next door, get you a cup of sugar and whatnot. But now, neighbors are very standoffish. So being able to just be able to share experiences, and like she said, to share different things that she's has accomplished with her neighbors and with those that she's there, and they're all to get in there together, and they can all help each other and possibly trust each other as well as they're living there as a community, is a beautiful experience, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and you can see some of the grounds that they're on. It's a beautiful place. It's
Hmm.
Garden of Eden for sure.
Absolutely.
It is an oasis. I don't know if she's gonna come back after this. So, she's really enjoying herself, and so I think this is a really good idea to kind of, how do you encourage millennials who usually they have their first trip abroad, they choose Europe. And so, I was asking her, how would you communicate to your age group or your cohort, to really get them to do, maybe encourage them to come to Africa as opposed to Europe.
Mhm.
And so this is one of the things that she was telling me, how she would, connect to millennials and kind of spread the word about traveling to Africa.
Absolutely.
What would I tell someone to make Africa their first trip abroad instead of Europe, as usually, college people do? The first trip they go to, they're studying abroad, they go to Europe. Well, the biggest reason why I would want someone to come to Africa for their first trip abroad is money conversion. So there's a lot more you can do with the amount of money that's just already in your pocket, like not needing to save up or to, hit a lick, as they say, and then go on a trip, but just, use your regular income. Yeah, if you want to experience the luxury lifestyle without having to pay thousands of dollars, you'll have a blast in Africa. Specifically Zambia and many other African countries. But yeah, so like, for example, like with $50, you could like eat out every night of the week, and it'd be pretty affordable, depending on your taste, how many drinks you get, or if you get appetizers and stuff like that. But you can get like a week full of meals with just $50. On the way here, we had a pretty long layover in Switzerland, and we had our meal in the airport was a grilled cheese and a large cup of tomato soup that we shared, and that alone was like almost $25. So
Wow.
Right.
Affordable
So
luxury. That's beautiful.
it is. And so, I look forward to some more footage that she's going to share with us. And, I just want people to really start thinking about, contributing, because you're contributing to the local economy as well. So when you
Mhm.
think of, your vacation plans, think Africa.
Absolutely. I'm definitely thinking Africa as well for my first trip abroad. So thank you for giving us some more information and insight on affairs that are going abroad, and letting us get a firsthand experience on what it's like to travel to Africa.
You're absolutely welcome.
Thank you. You have a blessed one.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Let us pause for announcements from our sponsors. Coming up, Doshon Farad will talk about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the innocent lives lost. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
Children have become the latest victims of Israeli aggression as Israeli military airstrikes pummel Palestinian neighborhoods and heighten the conflict.
Retaliatory attacks, which began on Monday night, mark a significant escalation in tensions in Jerusalem. They followed a day of heavy clashes between Palestinians and Israeli police inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Hundreds of people were injured when police fired stun grenades and tear gas at Palestinian demonstrators. Later, Israeli nationalists gathered for an annual march through Jerusalem's Old City to celebrate Israel's capture of East Jerusalem during the 1967 Six-Day War. Many Palestinians view the march as a provocation. The catalyst for the violence is Israel's plans to evict a number of Palestinian families from East Jerusalem to make room for Jewish settlers. For many, the evictions are just part of a wider trend.
It's a matter of a whole policy that has been targeting the Old City, targeting Sheikh Jarrah, targeting Silwan, and of course targeting Isawiya and other places. And they have surrounded Jerusalem with enormous settlements, trying to extricate Jerusalem from its Palestinian environment.
The international community is now calling for all sides to de-escalate.
Joining us to discuss this is Doshon Farad. Greetings, brother.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, my friend.
Oh, I'm so honored for you to be here, brother, to give us more information and insight on this topic here. A May 11, 2021 Final Call newspaper article is entitled 1 Year Old Among 29 Children Injured in Israeli Aggression. Why has Israel decided to crack down on Palestinians and carry out airstrikes at this particular time? Why is Israel hitting high-rise buildings, injuring and killing women and children in the process?
I'm sorry, brother. I thought you were reading that's what you're asking me. Okay, well, brother Tariq, it's very simple. That currently Israel has an apartheid, not light regime, but it is apartheid. And this has been the history of that criminal settler colony since its inception. We have to keep in mind that when we say, oftentimes whenever we're discussing Israel, we have to make clear that who runs Israel, we're not saying Jewish people, we should say Ashkenazi Jewish people, European Jews, who still have the European mindset to conquer or take over anything that is non-European. So what we're witnessing is basically imperialism I should say that Israel represents American and European imperialism in the so-called Middle East.
Wow, that's interesting, because you said, we've been seeing that it's a lot of the headlines say that it's a conflict, but from what you're explaining here, it's really more so like a modern day colonialism or imperialism that's going on.
I'm sorry, brother Tariq, you had kind of started breaking up. I think it's my connection. You had just said what, brother?
I was saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me better now?
No, it's the connection is acting shaky. I don't know why all of a sudden.
Okay, let me see here. How about now? Is it clear? Still shaky?
Still can't.
Okay. Say I hear you fine.
You can hear me, but I can't hear you.
Okay.
Sound like Max Headroom.
Let's see here. How about now, Keith?
No, brother.
Let me see. Is it still shaky?
Right.
Still shaky. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Well, I do apologize for the technical difficulties that's going on with the connection here. So because of that, we're just going to go ahead and go on to the next segment. Now we have our brother Sibeko Jywanza, who is going to talk to us about Flanner House. Greetings, my brother.
Hey, greetings. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for joining us today.
No problem.
Yes, sir. So I know it's a switch up here, and we do apologize again for that interruption. But as food insecurity increases in Black and brown communities, Flanner House on the north side of Indianapolis is providing the community food access. So how long has Flanner House, Flanner Farms, and Cleo's Bodega been in operation? And how did it all get started?
Yeah, so Flanner House is actually a 123-year-old organization. It started as a building block for Black people coming up from the South into Indianapolis. And they helped to establish jobs. It was one of the first daycares. Frank Flanner, who was a Quaker, donated the land and the house for Flanner House. And he looked to Booker T. Washington to help him establish what kind of method would be placed to help African Americans coming up from the South into Indianapolis. Flanner Farms has been around for about 5 years. So since 2016, Brandon Cosby took over as executive director of Flanner House. He's an educator by trade, and he turned a couple of plots of land that we had into a farm and a flower garden. So we have a 2-acre farm and a flower garden. The flower garden is in the shape of a dinka symbol, which is a Ghanaian symbol for abundance. And we also have a fruit tree orchard there. And so hopefully in the next few years, the fruit will produce some fruit, right? The fruit trees will produce some fruit. Now, Cleo's Bodega and Cafe is the next part of our segment, and it's a grocery store / cafeteria. And so we serve smoothies and food, as well as some treats that we make in our kitchen and coffee. And the grocery store provides groceries from fresh produce coming from our farm, as well as bread, milk, eggs, things that you would get at a normal grocery store. And we call it a bodega because of the small size that we have. Our purpose is to try to replicate this model. And so we wanted to have a smaller size so that it can go into areas, particularly Black neighborhoods. And Cleo's, the name Cleo's comes from Cleo Blackburn, who was executive director of Flanner House from 1930 to about 1970. So he came up from the South and established a lot of things here in Indianapolis. So being a part of Flanner House, we wanted to make sure that that history was told and naming this Cleo's.
Absolutely. You know, because I didn't even know it was, you said 1930, right?
Yeah, he was there in 1930 all the way to the 70s. So he stood there for about 40 years. Now, might have been a little too long. We want to make sure that the next generation comes up, but he held strong in his determination when he was there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's beautiful that you guys have recognized the need in the community and that it has been recognized, and they have been pushing forward to help combat that need that's in the community as well, because, you know, food insecurity is a growing threat in many Black and brown communities across America are food deserts. Why was it important to open Flanner House, Flanner Farm, and Cleo's Bodega on the north side of Indianapolis?
Well, all those things are important, and with the 3 different initiatives that you just named, they were opened at different times, but it was for the same reason. It's because of the attack that's been on Black people here, because of white supremacy, because of the environment that we're in. We needed to make sure that we had a place that we could call our own. Sometimes we needed help outside of our community in order to establish that. So Flanner House was established to make sure that Black people had a way to provide for their families and to safely secure their families. Flanner Farms was established because we wanted to combat what people are calling food deserts. We use the term food apartheid because it's systematic. It's not something, desert is a very natural thing. It's not natural why our communities are not having fresh fruits and fresh vegetables to feed to their families. It is something that's on purpose, and it's a moneymaker for a lot of entities, including fast food, gas stations, and for grocery stores to be in other areas where they can make more money. And so all of these things are important. And the importance of the Cleo's Bodega, not just for the grocery store, because the grocery store serves as a conduit for you to be able to get fresh fruits and vegetables and other things that you need for your dinners and your lunches and breakfasts, snacks as well, right? But we have a space with free Wi-Fi that is a space that's safe, particularly for Black people, as we see a lot of our institutions and a lot of our stores can be scared of our presence. And so we want to make sure that in a Black community that's on the northwest side of Indianapolis, we provided a space that you can come, sit, have a meeting, and have free Wi-Fi. In our area, there's not a place like that. There's not a Starbucks in that area. We're on 24th Street. There's a Starbucks on 10th Street and then a Starbucks on 56th Street. And so you have that gap of an area, and the only place to gather would be either on your front porch or in a park. And if you're familiar with Indianapolis, it gets pretty cold during the winter times. And so we're just now breaking out of that winter time. So we needed a space where people could come and feel safe to have a meeting. And we've been welcomed. Like we've had poetry jams, weddings, places where people just come to meet and just hang out. And so that space, that safe space for Black people is so needed. And it's not just about food security, but it's about food sovereignty. You know, it's about feeding ourselves and providing for ourselves and having the jobs that we're having for our community. Most of our staff live in the neighborhood. Most of our staff walk to work. And that's something that we wanted to do, was provide food, provide jobs, and provide a safe space for our people.
Wow. You know, that's interesting that you say that you got that most of the staff live in the neighborhood, because that's important, so they have an understanding, a true understanding of what the neighborhood needs and how they can help the neighborhood as well. Because, you know, you mentioned food apartheid, and, you know, the north side of Indianapolis went from a food desert to a full-blown food apartheid. So how were you able to see it as an opportunity, and what are a few of the factors that have led to your success?
Some of the factors have been the engagement. We did not come up as Flanner House with the idea of providing a farm and a grocery store. This came from community meetings. Brandon Cosby, again, our executive director, sat in on meetings his first year and was really listening to what people were saying in the community. And he went off of what they were saying. We want a grocery store. The grocery store closed in 2012 that was down the street. And so there was a need for that in the neighborhood. And when people came up saying that they could do it, but beggars can't be choosy in terms of the type of food that they have, the community didn't go for that. And so Brandon decided to do it on his own. He actually created the platform for us to be able to have this. But going back in history, this whole area on the northwest side of Indianapolis, which is predominantly Black, has always molded itself up to be able to be self-sufficient. And because of things that happened throughout the city, with the highway being built right between the neighborhood and messing up a lot of property value, and a lot of people of beings would move further north outside of the neighborhood, it left a gaping hole in the community in terms of resources and responsibility and just mentors and just the sense that, you know, things can be self-sufficient within that area. And I believe that's what we're trying to do. Flanner House is a multi-service center, and we do a multi-generational approach. So we have a preschool, we have a daycare, we have a youth development, we also have a senior room, and we work with families. Wow. So we try to do things for the entire family. So this initiative with Flanner House provides jobs, as well as provides a sense of what's next. You know, like, how can we build on this to make sure that this stays here for a generation, but also that we don't have to depend on anybody. Because of last year in the pandemic, we fed a lot of people. We helped to deliver a lot of food. We changed our system. We donated food, and we were able to do that because we didn't have a business as usual model. We had a very community-based model.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful that you guys are always focused on, you know, what's next, because you guys aren't getting stagnant on, you know, what you're doing right now. You're always looking forward towards ways that you can help the community. And, you know, because with Cleo's Bodega, and then providing so much access to the community with groceries and foods grown from Flanner Farm. So what are a few examples of the products and healthy foods provided at Cleo's Bodega?
Yeah, so what we try to do is become a place where other businesses can flourish. So we partner with a couple of other Black businesses and entrepreneurs that are in Indianapolis to provide a place where Cleo's can expand on their capacity. For instance, Chef Oya, who owns the Trap seafood restaurant, it's a walk-up seafood restaurant, and she makes her own trap butters. She has 5 different trap butters. OG garlic. She has a jerk, curry, sweet Thai, a citrus blend that's a vegan blend. And so we use all of those, and we made sure that we created these grilled cheese sandwiches that are like gourmet grilled cheese sandwiches that mixes up these blends with different cheeses to create this. Londo's Flame-Aid, Joe Green with his turkey ribs. And on the grocery store side, you know, you can find shea butter from vendors. as well as Sister Lakaya. She has Earthly Clean, which is a cleanser, and it's a natural cleanser that she created at her home because of her children and wanting to make sure that her children were safe. And you know, she represents the Nation of Islam, and this sister right here also has a hand sanitizer. And so I wanted to make sure that products like these from individuals within our community who was making things for our community were in there. And then you can find your normal groceries. You can find your bread. You can find your green peppers and your tomatoes. We're just starting our planting season. So you'll find our produce in there. But what we're having, again, what's next? We're going to build a greenhouse this year. So fantastic. Throughout the whole year, you'll be able to get our fresh produce and we will be able to control how much food we're able to grow and where that food comes from and the nutrients, the water, the type of environment that those foods are grown in, so that we can provide our community with the healthiest options.
Wow, that is fantastic. So you mentioned a lot of amazing products there, especially whenever I'm in Indianapolis. I definitely need to come by Cleo's Bodega so I can try out some of those products myself. Because some of those butters that you mentioned sound fantastic, and that grilled cheese sandwich sounds like, because I'm a big fan.
It mixes well with some of the bean pies that we have here that comes straight from Chicago, bro. So you know, make sure you come on down there. You know, we definitely have that. I cannot believe I forgot to mention that on this broadcast. We can definitely get you a slice there.
Yes, sir. The fantastic supreme bean pies. Yes, sir. So what other services and programs does Flanner House and Flanner Farms provide to help the community become more self-sufficient?
Well, the self-sufficiency is always ingrained in us. What we actually need is a way to navigate between this world of white supremacy. And so we have a daycare, preschool, infant to 5-year-olds, and the curriculum there is all about love. There's abundance of Black teachers that are there in that institution, and Flanner House is known for Flanner kids. Like, a lot of people went to Flanner House for daycare. I mean, this is a 123-year-old institution. And there's not a many 123-year-olds around. So, you know, that means that there's pretty much somebody in Indianapolis. If you know somebody in Indianapolis, they know somebody who went through Flanner House or their family went through Flanner House. And so starting with those young people, and the way that we try to ingrain our farm with that is that our farm encompasses or surrounds the playground, the daycare playground. So when they come outside, they see that, as well as making sure that we have our own farm beds within the youth's playground. And so we have some strawberries in there, and I haven't seen not near strawberry because they come outside and play and they pick the strawberries and eat them, you know? So it's one of those things with the youth development. These are elementary, middle school young people who come from after school, and we pick them up. Sometimes schools dismiss at 3 o'clock. Sometimes they dismiss at 4. Sometimes they dismiss early at 1. And so we go pick them up and bring them to Flanner House, or during the breaks, during spring break and winter break. So we provide that for them. And then the Center for Working Families helps with resources for families who are trying to get back on their feet or just trying to survive this navigate this world. It's rental assistance, energy assistance, resume building, job fairs. And so we have those things. And then before the pandemic, we had a room for the seniors who would come about 2 or 3 times a week, and they could socialize and engage. But what we transformed that into just making sure that we check on our elders. And so now we have someone who goes around, checks on them, calls them, make sure they have what they need. Do they have their groceries? Do they have everything? Are their loved ones checking on them, and all that? And then just being a conduit for the community. There's a community builder there that establishes a newsletter so people can get their stories out, as well as we can connect with the neighborhood associations and some of the other institutions that are around the neighborhood and start connecting on a more broader base plan of improving how the world sees us as a community, but also what we need as a community to be able to survive this crazy world.
Absolutely. Well, wow, that was fantastic. Obviously, we see Flanner House has been a beautiful and a huge impact in the community. And before we close out, let us show a nice clip of what Flanner House is pretty much all about.
Flanner House on the northwest side of Indianapolis has been a center of community empowerment for more than a century. This week, volunteers set up a new community garden at Flanner House designed to educate and connect people to the food they eat. WRTV's Cornelius Honker shows us how Flanner House has made this community garden a place for everyone.
That's just some of the work Erica Jury has been doing since Tuesday for the brand new Flanner House Food Justice Garden and Classroom.
I wanted to have one space where I could have somebody from every age group at the same time here together, all learning about growing food.
Erica was very intentional about designing the space for people of all ages and abilities in our community.
These are specifically, this height, this waist high, is for people where bending can be stressful for them, or people who would prefer to sit or even in a wheelchair.
Getting the space to look like this was a group effort. Many people volunteered their time throughout the week to get it done. Erica hopes having consistent monthly classes will keep the community engaged with what they're doing at Flanner House, teaching the community to grow food and maintain a connection to the land they're growing on.
Having this be a classroom and having classes, I think something like this, it helps to make time. Make time to do.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's been an honor speaking with you, brother, and we definitely want to thank you for taking the time out to come on today to our show and give us, all this beautiful information about Flanner House, because community activism like this needs to be shown a lot more, and I'm glad we're able to bring a spotlight onto Flanner House and what you guys are doing for the community in Indianapolis, sir.
Thank you very much, man. It's a pleasure. I appreciate that. And kind of like that's Erica's our greenhouse manager who was talking, and we're establishing that medicine garden as well as a farm where people of all disabilities and abilities and ages can help. But you saw her shirt, destroy power, not people. And the young people that were working there, those are our feed young people. Farming, education, employment, distribution, FEED. Those are 16 to 24-year-olds who work on our farm, and we pay them. And we make sure that we go through the right systems to make sure that they have a leg up. And that's what this is all about, making sure that we leave something down for the next generation.
Wow. That's beautiful work, brother. And thank you again for taking the time out to come on our show today, brother. You have a blessed night.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today and tuning into National Network View. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, NNV News. This is Tariq X with National Network View News.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.